You want to work on big things, big networks, but all you have is maybe a laptop, some VMs, maybe some hardware devices, and that's it. Well, to fulfill these big dreams of yours, welcome to this tutorial for GNS3. I'm Ayushman, and let's get going. Now, before we begin, a big shout out to DevHawk for providing us this environment where we can make this tutorial. Do stay till the end of the video for we have a big surprise for you all. Now, let's get into it. GNS3 stands for Graphical Network Simulator 3, and it is a tool which allows you to simulate and emulate networks on an enterprise scale on your own machine. That could be a personal computer, a laptop, or even a cloud server. Now, you might ask, wait, GNS3, a network simulator, don't you already have that? Well, yes. Most of you out there who are doing something like the CCNA or have something like computer networks in your curriculum might have come across something by Cisco known as the packet tracer. And while yes, packet tracer does allow you to simulate networks, especially on smaller scales, when you want to really simulate and emulate those networks and maybe even connect these hardware onto your virtual machines, well, that is where you need GNS3. It can actually emulate each and every software out there that can be seen across networking devices. It's not just a simulation. Now, we have GNS3 and packet tracer, everybody knows. There might be some other tools out there as well. I completely agree. But out there for hobbyists, professionals and learners alike, GNS3 is probably the most widely supported application across multiple different platforms, as you can install this on macOS, Windows, Linux, and even on lesser known operating systems such as the FreeBSD. Now, for Windows and Macintosh, it's straight away. You go onto the website, you install the installer, that's it. The installer will install GNS for you, you're ready to go. For Linux, you'll do the same, but through the command line. And for FreeBSD, there are some workarounds here and there. You might need to download the binary straight from GitHub. There are multiple online sources for it. Do check it out. Now, continuing with the installation. When you come to the installation screen, you'll find out that GNS3 is installed in two parts. One is the GNS3 GUI, where you can actually create the topologies and do all the configuration. And one is the GNS3 server. This is where your software and your hardware is actually emulated. Now, for this GNS3 server, you usually get three ways to run it: locally, virtually, and through remote. Well, let's first start with locally. Locally means that the GNS3 server will be installed on your base operating system. Therefore, whatever you run on GNS3 will have access to the entire resources being provided by a computer. That means if I'm running 4 network devices on GNS3 and each networking device is taking 3 gigabytes of RAM, then the entire server will take 12 gigabytes of RAM out of my system. And if I don't have those 12 gigabytes of RAM available, then my system might crash. Why would you use GNS3 local then when it's basically using all of your resources? One can argue that maybe this is what a Chrome would feel like if it would be a network simulator. Well, simply put, GNS3 in this particular installation allows you to easily connect your hardware devices onto your laptop. There's not much to do about it. You basically create a bridged adapter. You bridge one port of your laptop to one port of this device, and that's it. This device is now connected to your computer. Similarly, if you want to try out other fun things and you really want GNS3 to utilize all the possible resources that you have, installing it locally is the way to go. Now, the second option out there is virtually. Well, GNS3 can also be installed as a virtual machine on your favorite hypervisor. That means you can have a GNS3 VM on VirtualBox, VMware, and even KVM QEMU, and even Windows hypervisor if I'm correct. Now, why would you do this? Well, the downside of running it locally is that your GNS3 server will consume all of the resources you have. If you're running it as a VM, that means that all of the resources you give that VM is everything that GNS3 server has access to. So, if I give only 3 gigabytes of RAM to the VM, GNS3 will not be able to use more than that amount of RAM. That means my entire host operating system remains stable and GNS3 will not be the reason for it to suddenly crash. However, there are some caveats. If you are a power user and you really want to connect multiple networking devices to your GNS3 server, Via VMs, it can be a bit finicky. I personally have experienced slower speeds and VirtIO driver issues. However, others have not really faced it. For some, it has worked flawlessly. Secondly, sometimes you really want to simulate those big enterprise networks. For that, you want to give GNS3 server as many resources as you have. And if you have a VM, what you're basically doing is playing a cat and mouse game of trying to assign more resources to the VM whenever GNS3 is asking for it. That means you have to shut down the server, assign more resources, and then restart the whole process. And finally, the third option was remotely. Here, basically, you can run the GNS3 server on any platform you want that is not your own computer. So you could technically run it on a cloud provider, let's say an AWS machine, and then connect it remotely via your GUI. Now finally, which one of these should you do? Well, if you're a learner and a beginner and you don't really want to become a power user just yet, and more importantly, you don't want your system to randomly crash, well, I would say go for the virtual machine. If you're a professional, you're an enthusiast, a hobbyist, and someone who really wants to emulate large networks and communicate and attach a lot of these external devices, I would say go for locally. And if you're working on a truly enterprise scale where you want multiple people to have access to that network simulation, right, to the network topology, well, you can always go for remote. My personal opinion, go for local. I enjoyed it, you would enjoy it, and personally, I've never felt that it was an unstable experience. Well, that's installation covered. Now, without much further ado, let's get on to a practical and see how you can actually use GNS3.